All right, so I've had a lot of great feedback around the recent videos I've posted. I just want to clarify certain things. I wanted to do several trade videos where I cover most of my trades and explain why I took them and how I basically manage the trades. Um, so with the most recent videos I've put on YouTube there, I want basically a lot of traders to, I'm getting a lot of traders basically who are asking for recordings, like market recordings the whole day, the sessions of, the morning sessions, the afternoon sessions, and I do try my best to record the full screen. That's why I did some adjustments to my screen recently. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I really do appreciate all your feedback, and make sure to subscribe and also hit the like button so that I could develop and kind of get more motivation to create more of these videos. So basically here I'm gonna go over my trades of the day. So basically this was 1st of April 2021. A very decent day where I covered a lot of trades. I'm gonna do more of these videos where I cover the trades of the day and kind of explain how I manage the trades and all that. And hopefully you guys will appreciate this. And I mean, doing these videos and uploading and everything, it's pretty time consuming, honestly, especially the fact that I do trade during the day and also recording them, trying to edit certain things and all that. It's a lot of time consuming. So I'm not doing huge fancy videos where, you know, we'll see all kinds of highlights or special effects kind of stuff. I don't have much time for that, but I do want to keep the quality and discussions over trading concepts around market profile, the dome, how to scalp NASDAQ, tape reading, and all that, how to integrate basically all of these order flow concepts in your trading. So without further ado, let's try to hop into some trades here. So first of all, um, what I'm trying to do is cover the basics of how I scalp, what are the concepts around my trade ideas. I do cover most of them over my coaching videos, and please do review most of my YouTube channel where I explain a lot of my concepts, just that I don't go into full details, but I will try to kind of give some good context around most of the trades that I had. And this way, if you need more detailed information, I do have more in-depth videos where I explain certain things and how I take trades and what really which factors uh, come into play when I'm taking trades around Nasdaq and ES, and sometimes I'll hedge with both at the same time. So in this trade here, we've got a sequence where, if you look at the tape, there's nothing really going on with ES. It's still range bound. It's 15 minutes into the day. If I'm not mistaken here, there's some news that came out at 9:45, and also we're expecting news at 10. So I'm kind of like, you could see my notes here on my screen. I'm trying to avoid trading close to 10 and like you really not trading before the news at 9:45, just because sometimes if I forget that there was news and I'm in a trade and then all of a sudden there's a huge move up or a huge move down, I it's tough to manage those trades. In this one here, what we have is a trade where I'm stalking a long position. Yeah, so I'm stalking a long position here, and let's just let the tape go around and we'll cover some details here. Here around the 88s, I've noticed that it's an inflection. The market's kind of rotating around here. Um, it's kind of like the risk level. I just want to see what happens here. And the reason why I take this trade is um, market correlations, range bound ES, uh, range bound Russell, and here I've got the euro, which is also range bound. So that kind of proves that we don't have really huge directionality. And also, NASDAQ is fairly close to its highs. So I'd rather not take the move out of these highs, sorry, the breakout from these highs, and I'd rather wait for a move lower to kind of tag me in. When I'm doing these trades, I look for several factors where I cover basically velocity, how the market basically moves into the price area that I'm looking at. I want to see the ranges. I have a different way of validating the range of the current market, and also looking at the volatility, how the rotations are going around, how many ticks up and how many ticks down. Without going into a lot of detail, it's really to enhance the current market conditions. And again, all this is pretty fast in my brain because I kind of know that ES is range bound, Russell is also kind of range bound, Euro's doing range bound. The reason why I have the Euro is recently, I'd say the last couple of weeks and even the last couple of months, it's been really a lot about the U.S. dollar. So I just have the euro here, and I have the U.S. dollar on my trading view screen on the right, where I could basically just have a idea of what's going on with the dollar and the euro. So the euro kind of helps me with market correlations. There are several patterns and things that we could look for when it comes to the euro, but it's basically mainly to look at and validate market correlations. So let's just go on with this trade here. Remember that 88 was a level that we were seeing here. So I just want to see how the market trades at the 88 here. And it's exploring the 96, 97 level. I also, like I said, I always have an eye on the euro. It's still hovering around, mid-range, nothing drastically big that will impact my trade decision here. So again, letting the market come to me, not trying to chase it, because I've noticed that there's a lot of, recently a lot of variations to the tape, because that's also something that I cover with most of the coaching videos, where the tape isn't the same every day. So some days you need to chase. I mean, again, chasing is never really the real way, but I mean, if the market's really aggressive one way or another, you need to really put your feet in to be able to get a good move. Because if it's really aggressive, one-sided, trying to get decent pullbacks and all that won't really work those days. And there are other days where you just let the market come to you, and then with the velocity, how it comes to your, the price you want to trade, how the market's reacting to the volatility, the current volatility, and all that. And these are little nuances that I look at. And here, if we go with this trade here, I'm trying to get to it here. So I have a couple of trades here that I'm going to cover. So first of all, here we go. Look at how the market gets to my price, and it just never really. In this case here, I'm kind of chasing a bit because I just noticed quickly that it does not want to tag me at that 82. So then it just suddenly moves in my direction, which is the kind of trade I want. So this is really a tremendous entry and a great calculation of the volatility of the market here. So I start moving my, take profits. So basically, Jigsaw here, we're able to, it's again, this is the Jigsaw platform that I use to execute my trades. The tape here, and then I have Sierra charts just behind the dome just to see if ever, I was not in front of my screen. I just want to go back and see. And then I have a certain indicator here on the Sierra charts that I kind of use to give myself a detailed view of what's going on with the ranges and all that. And then you have the tape. This is the NASDAQ. This is ES. the Russell. I have gold here with the euro, and the Russell and the gold tape is here. So again, the entry with this trade was tremendous. I mean, this is a perfect trade. You rarely, there's nothing really wrong with it. I think my calculation with the current volatility of the market and everything was perfect, spot on. So let's just look at the details of of tape reading basically. So I'm looking at the 88.25s. Again, tape reading, some days you'll have these blocks that come in, right? And these blocks are just traps. If I'm not mistaken, we had a day like that recently, and every time you would get blocks, it was just a great area to basically if the market was going higher, you had blocks coming in as buyers were coming in. It was just a trap, and it was a great area to kind of fade the market in short, you know. But again, I'm not. That's not really what I do. But the reading that market the tape there with that market condition that day is really important. And this day, it was very clear that every time you had buyers coming in, you had decent buying. There was blocks coming in. Some days you'll get these blocks, and then it's actually a great area to fade, you know. And you kind of get used to that, seeing Nasdaq, and you know, again, the context of this market here, it's mostly range bound, so you expect this to be buying, and you don't really want to fade that, right? So in this case here, I basically had my order to take profits. There's, you know, I generally trade 1 to 3 contracts, so I just moved that order just to get stopped out. If I don't want to put it all the way down because I know it's already a good trade, and I have one here to take off. And basically, the reason why I kind of hesitated here was I took the trade off right away is that 88 was the zone that I was looking at. So the risk is at 88, right? And look how just after I took my position off, the market just flew higher. Again, you can't really be perfect, right? I mean, it's tough to be perfect on every trade. So that's the point of trying to scale into at least 1 or 3 contracts. With experience, you'll get to a level where you know you scale into one, it goes automatically in your favor, and you see the tape. There's nothing wrong with this tape. So let's just play it the other way around. If I was to short this, it was a really bad decision to short because these blocks, okay, block buying basically, all this green color, it's very aggressive. So when you see this kind of tape, you don't even look to sell. Okay, so that's the kind of missing part that a lot of traders have. They're always looking at, okay, I need to sell here, I need to buy here. Yes, there's resistance and support, let's say, technically speaking, but resistance, you don't want to sell with this kind of tape. Buyers are really aggressive here. They're basically, this is delta here on Jigsaw, so I just have it to see and monitor, and I also have a trade setup where I kind of look for a certain level of delta, just to, you know, give me confidence that this really is not a market to fade, or you know, you want to join with the buyers. But again, Nasdaq, you don't want to chase unless you're trading the micros. You could, you know, you see this kind of thing, you could just hop in with one micro and then, you know, maybe let it pull back and hop in with another 2 or 3, and that's a different way of trading. But I mostly trade the Nasdaq, the regular contract, and again, all about tape reading. This is really aggressive buying, nothing to really look for fading here, or you know, trying to sell this market. So that 88 really was an inflection level, and then as you can see, the market continues going higher, and that was a perfect trade. Now, if we just look what's going on here, I am planning to add to my ES here. Basically, sorry. So I closed the Nasdaq trade, and I'm trying to add along on ES, as ES has pulled back with Nasdaq making new highs. So look at this trade now. I mean, I got in. I mean, the movement and how the velocity here, not really the best trade location. And again, it's kind of moving against me, and look what I do. I want to get out. I'm willing to basically take a $12, $25 loss on this, scratch this trade, but I I've closed those sell orders because I thought maybe we might get a nice push higher as we've got some small size buying that came in. But look at the decision of scratching that trade. How great that decision was, because now we're getting selling in NASDAQ around the 93s and ES is going nowhere. In this situation here, I don't think keeping that long would have been a good idea. So I did do a great decision of scratching that trade. I was a bit maybe aggressive, trying to get a bit of a nicer move on at Nasdaq, but then it went without me, and I kind of missed at least 5 to 8 points on my trade there. So I kind of wanted to see if I could get a pullback on ES and enter with one lot and maybe get a retest of the highs. Obviously, didn't work out. It's okay. I scratched it right away as I saw the the, the selling coming in Nasdaq, and you know in this situation here, Euro is doing nothing, range bound. Again, ES is pretty much range bound as well. Nasdaq was the stronger market going with a new high. I think I could have been a bit more patient and maybe wait for Nasdaq to pull back and maybe re-enter another long here. But again, nothing really bad with this trade. It was an idea to take another retest of the highs and perhaps even break the highs and get what 89 to 92, 2-3 points out of another trade here. It didn't work out. That's okay. So let's get on to the next trade. So we have news here at 10. If I'm not mistaken, it was something regarding CPI and all that anyway. So I didn't really want to trade into 10 o'clock, so I want to make sure that I closed my positions. I didn't have any at that time. So again, it's not about not trading the news, but it's about not being aware that there's news. So let's say you were in a long position and then 10 o'clock hits and look at the selling that comes in. All of a sudden you think it's, some kind of decent selling or something. It's just, the market reacting to news that's coming in. And it's scheduled news. It's not like, Donald Trump tweeting something or anything like that. It's scheduled news, economic news, and there was one at 9:45 and then 10. So look at this trade here. I saw the selling coming in right after the news, a reaction to it. ES very close to the lows. Look at that. ES very close to the lows. And then all of a sudden we get some blocks coming in. Blocks coming in NASDAQ, in gold, and look at Euro. Nothing severe. So I'm planning to leg into another long as we get close to that same 88 inflection. Look at this now. So the market's doing its thing. Again, ES came off those lows pretty suddenly. That was really good for me to kind of like leg into a long here. So I'm long already. The market has moved quickly in my favor. I tried to enter the 82s. What I'm doing is I'm trying to target the 88 and higher. Remember that 88 inflection that we saw earlier where the blocks were coming in and we could see the battle at that 88. So I'm kind of noticing that if we can push higher through this 88, there's a good trade and maybe I can scale into 1 or 3. So let's look at this here. So again, it's a bit quick, it's a bit bouncy because again, the market's kind of reacting to that news and everything, and ES is back to its range. So, market correlations once again. And here I'm trying to just figure out where I could add to my position. So I quickly, if you see there, I just want to position myself to see which areas I can add to my longs. So when I added there, it basically there's a way to quickly put a sell order as well, just to maybe get stopped out there and then buy lower. So in this case, I did not look to do anything here. I'm just gonna come back. Sorry, I kind of fast forwarded here. Let's just play around with this a bit. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, here we are. All right, so once again, let's just get to the trade because I play around with the dome where I kind of scroll around it. Let's see it. So it went quickly, and then look, the 88s. Remember, that's the risk level. We're above the 88. We're going higher very quickly, and we're holding the 88s, which is good. But then it kind of like dips lower, and then comes back higher. So I remove my target right away, just to be able to get more out of the trade, and I basically put a stop order here just to get stopped out if the market does actually go lower. And now we're going below that 88, which is kind of the risk, right? That's the risk I'm looking at. So I let the market do its thing, and I'm trying to basically get out of the last several contracts I have here, and I put a stop there, and I also had a target there. So I can see that the 88, again, inflection, we went higher, trapped the buyers, and reversed. So now, in this case, that 88 for me quickly is an inflection point. Now, remember, now ES is coming to its lows, so that 88 is an inflection point. I know that we have stops above the 88. So that's where, kind of remembering which prices, where the sellers came in, where the battle was, all this stuff. Either I take notes. You're going to see the thumbnail on this video where, it's the notes where I was taking notes on a grocery document that my wife uses to put the groceries and everything. So that's where I put, oh, okay, 88 was a battle, sellers came in. If I forget, or I could sometimes put little notes on the dome. Okay, so let's get to the next trade. So again, in this trade here, if we were to cover how this one went, I mean, look, there's nothing really bad about it. Scaled in a couple of contracts, moved it up, and then again, my decision process is 88 above it. We get some stops, look for continuation. If you get a reversal, make sure you tighten up the stops after the market goes below 88, or else sellers may come in temporarily to move this lower. And in fact, they did move it lower. It went much lower, and ES started making, getting close to its lows as well. So let's get to the next trade here. All right, so here is a trade where, again, it's not a trade, but it's a trade idea that I had. Let's just look at the tape. Okay, look at the tape here. ES hovering at its lows, Euro range bound. So this is just basically the market context of this trade, right? Again, I put my order to buy here at this level. The decision process is all about velocity, market volatility, the range expansions, approximately calculations of the current volatility that Nasdaq's got, and then market correlations. Again, ES range bound, Euro range bound offers a good long scalp. So look at the tape here. Okay, I'm just gonna try to pause and play at the same time and explain. It's really good because it's an idea that works, but I'm gonna cancel this trade, and you're gonna see why. Look at how the market's coming down. Okay, so we've got some block sells around 77s. So if we've got some block sells at 77s, market basically goes higher, right? So they sell here, but it went higher. So it's basically selling. So it's really nuanced tape rating here. It's selling and squeezing higher, selling, squeezing higher. They will do that a couple of times, and then the pace will change. You'll see how the selling gets people, well, sellers, gets sellers in, and then squeezes them, gets sellers in, squeezes them, and then boom, 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 we start moving down aggressively. Look at this here. Okay. So I have these color coded. So me seeing that, I basically wanted to go short ES. Close to its lows, Euro range bound. I said to myself, let me short ES to see how I could play around here. Okay. So shorted ES and aggressively bought the Nasdaq. You see, I should have not even looked to buy the Nasdaq here because I basically seeing how they were moving it lower, I should have just basically scratched the Nasdaq long and maybe continued keeping the short bias on ES. But now look how I manage this trade because it gets pretty heavily one-sided at some point, and we're gonna look into the details of that. So now look at the 87 selling, right? They got all aggressive. I'm sorry. The the ES here hovering at the lows here really was the key factor that, you know, should have not even look at the 85s now. They sell, right? And it really got heavily one-sided here. And it basically, you know, it's that same level that we're coming back to, and it's always hovering around those same levels, you know. So I'm gonna just fast forward a bit here as there's a good trade that's gonna come, and it's gonna get a bit complicated, but I'm just gonna try it if I can. Oh, here we are. Moved it too much here. Okay, so look at this now. Yes, in that same range, you know, 88 were lower. I could see that the market wants to go lower, and look, but I tagged a buy, which immediately went in my favor. Okay, so got aggressive on the Nasdaq here. Let's just look at this. Now it's pushing lower, and I'm trying to see if I could maybe scale into a several. Got some buyers coming in, but these are the colors here. It's basically squeezing. So look at that. I basically took a long there, and I was planning to really just scalp it and maybe take 50 or 100 bucks out of it max, and not really, you know, do a huge trade out of it. But the way it played out, it just gave me a couple of good entries. I got really aggressive, and that's where now that same 88, we're still hovering above it. So you see, what I do here is I see all the buying coming in, and I move right away my sell orders higher. I push them higher, and let's just see here how I manage this after I just put some sell orders because I saw that we're getting closer below that 88, you see, and I basically got out. That same 88 has been an inflection point all morning long, and every time we got to it, you either got to push higher right away above it to really get some decent buying, or you really want to push your put your stops. Again, I was mostly long biased here, so I was putting my stops very quickly to at least, you know, get several profits out of the first couple of trades or the first couple of lots if I have two or three on it on the trade. But it's always that same level that came out. And now in one of these trades here, what I'm going to show is how I get into some trouble. So let's look at that. Okay, so remember how I was mentioning that I was planning to take a trade at the 72s here. So the 72 again, look at that. So I have my order to buy. ES hovering around the lows. Uh, Euro started to kind of grind lower. Uh, it made some couple of quick ticks on the quick ticks lower. So I kind of have an eye on that there and look at the trade here. There we are. So went short ES, long Nasdaq. So I said to myself, if I can get several ticks on ES here, I could most likely get a better trade out of the Nasdaq if I can get two or three scaling, because the market context here is definitely showing that it doesn't want to break lower, it doesn't want to go too high, it's just hovering around a certain number of points on ES and a certain number of ticks on and on Nasdaq and ES here. So let's just look at this one here. So quickly, I moved my stop right there. I got out of the trade quickly because I noticed that the momentum up is not working. It's not going up the way I want it to go up, and it's kind of quickly squeezing higher and then pushing lower, squeezing higher and pushing lower. So I think my bias going short ES is really good, close to the lows. Nasdaq is just still in range bound, but this being close to its lows is a really dangerous zone to try to be aggressive on the long side on Nasdaq. So again, the correlations work not perfectly, but when one market is weak and the other one is range bound, the weakness of one of them will basically spill to the other one. So if you quickly see one being weak and the other one is range bound, this weakness here could affect this one, and you don't want to be too aggressive on one of on one the instrument on the index here, with the other ones coming lower. Again, euro making several pushes lower kind of quickly biased me. So if I got out of that trade quickly. It's, I mean, $5 profit or whatever. It's a scratch basically. Okay. Now I'm still short that ES contract, right? Look at this now. Being short on ES and this Nasdaq pushing higher, I got too aggressive. I should have not looked to be too aggressive here on the Nasdaq with this situation here. I should have basically stepped aside and waited for a better pullback or a better tape rating. Um, I'm going to get really aggressive here. So I got 74, 76, 79. You see how I'm layering my buy orders. I mean, going now back into this trade and looking at, there was really nothing that was really aggressively good for me to kind of look into aggressive scalping here. I think it was mostly a sweep that we were just getting a push lower and then a sweep higher. So let's just look at this, right? So I get tagged here at the 79s. My initial position was at the 72s. That's where I wanted to basically buy. So I got another one. So I've got two long, and then ES I'm short here, but ES is not doing the move I want. So I'm not even profitable on the ES trade yet. So look at this now. Blocks coming in at 75s. So quickly, what I do is 75 sell 73. Wow, that means Nasdaq's got some selling here. So I'm in a bit of trouble here with the Nasdaq position, and then I'm short on ES. So what I do is I aggressively short another two or three contracts on ES. So if I get a decent move on ES, I want to basically hedge along on Nasdaq and get a decent move here. I've done this several times. It does work out perfectly. You really need to time your entries and you need to be calm when you're doing these trades. So nothing really aggressive. I mean, on the tape side, basically, we've got some blocks on ES, but the blocks sold at 87.25 and we're still at 87.75. So clearly nothing really directional here. Again, very range bound, but one little clue is we've got the euros getting really closer to its lows. So this is a really major effect on the markets in the last couple of weeks, like I mentioned earlier. So as soon as I saw this, I said to myself, quickly, maybe let's add to this ES short and then we'll manage the Nasdaq. Look at this now. So again, we've got some 75, 76s that sold in on Nasdaq, scalped a couple of more short on ES, and look how this trade does work out. Okay, so this is where just that price action that you're going to see on Nasdaq here is confirming to me the way I see tape and market on the dome. It doesn't want to go lower. That clearly tells me it does not want to go lower. It most likely does want to go higher. Going higher doesn't mean it's going to go another 10, 15, 20 points higher. It just tells me how bad this trade is or how much pain I'm going to take. Okay? So that movement is not telling me anything major on the downside. So now it's basically did a nice little move into target, into profit, right? I'm trying to scalp, I'm trying to get out a couple of contracts here because I'm noticing quickly that ES is still moving higher and this is not going lower. So there's no real downside pressure at the current moment, right? So what I'm going to do here is very cleverly manage the NASDAQ, let ES do its thing, because if I can get some decent move on the NASDAQ here, it will pay for the bad trade on ES here. Okay, look at this. So I moved the sell order right away, the profit taking, and then boom, I canceled that one as well, pushed it higher. Look at NASDAQ. It's going higher, but that same, remember we saw the 88s and then we saw the 78s basically kind of give us an inflection, some kind of rotations in there. ES is very close to my entry, which is okay. If I can scratch both trades and not make a huge profit out of it, be it, it's okay. That's how trading is sometimes. The idea was not too bad, but the management and all that wasn't all that good. So here, look, it hovers lower, and then boom. That's the kind of movement I want to see on Nasdaq. So let it do it. Look at this. Look at it. Look at this. Look at the move up we're gonna get here. And no, I guess that was not the trade, but it's fine. Uh, I mean, I managed it pretty well. I'm close to my entry on ES. I'm not too far. So now look at ES here. I'm just basically gonna just go and move around my buy orders just to get out, and I've got one more contract left, and it's gonna basically, this is where I could have just put that in and boom, it closed the trade. So if you want to see the P&L on this trade here, so I just fast forwarded a couple of minutes here, and now ES made a huge reversal back to its highs. Euro bounced off its lows. I mean, off the basic. I mean, it was going lower. And it kind of reversed from that area. ES is its highs here. Nasdaq back at the 88. Remember, we're talking about the 88s here. So, I mean, again, I did a good trade management to get out of that ES short, and at that very instant where Nasdaq didn't show enough put a momentum to go higher, but I mean obviously after that it stopped a lot of traders. There's all these blocks came in at the 88 and 89s again. So for that trade that I just showed you, we're gonna get to a point where it's gonna show us the P&L. So it's all about trade management, right? So at the end of the day, um, that ES trade gave me minus $300 because I scalped short and removed it. And again, a lot of traders put a lot of emphasis on MAE and MFE, which is, I mean, it's decent the way it's. But when you're legging into scaling into several contracts, the MAE and the MFE, it kind of like skews. So even though my ES trade doesn't show a lot of MFE there. I mean, the whole point was to kind of hedge the NASDAQ because I was planning to scale into several NASDAQ trades there. So here it kind of gave a little positive there, right? I mean, the difference between both of them. So spreading or whatever you want to call it, right? So it was a tough start. I mean, I didn't have huge gains, but then this trade kind of came in and still positive here. Nothing major, but I did end up doing a good trade later on, which paid off for all this. You know the 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 bad entries I had here. I mean, it's not really bad entries, but again, the move against me kind of me hedging on ES. I should have just kept my cool and maybe continued just scalping the long side on NQ. So fast forward a bit, little nuance. This day, it ended up being Euro making new lows. I put some notes here. So it actually played totally opposite of what I was thinking, and totally opposite of the last several weeks and several days, where every move down on euro would have a huge impact on the indices. And this day it was all about euro coming to its lows. Yes, it's at its highs. Nasdaq was again had made new highs in the day, intraday highs basically. So it was all about buy when euro was at the lows and sell the indices when it's euros at the highs. Basically, when I say sell, it's not an obvious quickly. It's not like, okay, euros at the highs, just sell the indices. Euros at the lows, buy the indices. But the main context of the day was that, um, I mean, it's not gonna be 100% perfect all the time, right? Because the last several days it's been euro or dollar going high or indices going lower, and then this day was just the opposite because euro wanted to play catch up basically, and euro was when euro was going down, it was time to buy the indices, and when euro was going up, it was time to sell the indices. All day long, this was the pattern of the day. Um, so that was one little nuance that I wanted to, explore and explain to you guys here. I hope that kind of gives a good context here. Look, Nasdaq at the highs, ES at the highs now, and Euro at the lows. And then here's me preempting and trying to see if Euro could make new lows and continue lower, and maybe get the ES into a push lower. Not gonna work out because the pattern just was not there. Um, Basically, so some buying came in already. I'm ready to scratch this because quickly I put a stop in case it just breaks out, which rarely it will do, but in case it breaks out and just continues higher without really giving any kind of a pullback. So I just put a stop in case the market really does fly higher. Look how I manage this. Quickly seeing nothing going on the sell side. Here I'm ready to scratch it right away. At least see my mouse, and then it kind of moves lower, which kind of tells me that, oh, maybe I am right. But then get some sellers coming in, a little move, nothing major. It's not the kind of selling I want, so I quickly move my stop, and then I'm willing to look at this here. Totally opposite of what's going on here on NQ. NQ is just block buying, making new highs. ES is just hovering around 4 to 6 ticks here at the highs. Um, it's the kind of trade where I'm basing it off the fact that euro will most likely make new lows, which it bounces off, and the indices actually continue higher. So look at this now. I just basically scratch it. Nothing, no, nothing decent. Even though there's some blocks on NQ, so I scratched that already. I mean, nothing is moving. Again, tape rating is all about where are the blocks selling coming in on Nasdaq. Is the selling or the buying on the tape affecting price? And I mean, it's easy to say, but once you really get used to it, you'll quickly know that the selling here, it's most likely buyers who are moving higher, and they're taking some profits. You know, it's the context of the day was not about getting to the highs and selling came in. It's basically buyers just taking profits at these levels and some block sells coming in. That's pretty much it. And then how is the market or price action reacting to this selling? Okay, so I hope this kind of helps. Trying to not cover or go over too much, but I mean, it's tough to cover your trades and not really explain what's going on, how your decision process is at that time. And that's the reason why I take all these notes every time I trade. So, I mean, I don't have a journal per se, but my journal is taking notes of each trade I do, why I did this trade, and what made this trade work out, or why did I scratch it. I kind of quickly note that. I mean, um, again, it's just for me to monitor my psychological you know, impact. What's my psychology? How is it impacting my trading? Am I doing the right stuff at the right moment? Am I basically doing a good evaluation of the overall market conditions and the market context? And not one day will be the same, but I mean, like I said earlier, tape reading, velocity, market correlations, market context between what's going on with the euro, what's going on with the Nasdaq, and sometimes the Russell will be a very good uh, indicator. It's the one that's either very strong or the one that's very weak, and uh, you want to filter what's going on. Gold is very momentum based, and I have several trade patterns that I look for with gold. But again, it's all about where are others positioned, where are the stops, how could we go get them, how could we benefit from the fact that there are stops at these levels, and did the buyers come in, where was the battle. These are always the notes that I have. I either jot them down on my dome or on paper. So one last trade before I conclude here. Look at the blocks coming in here on Nasdaq, okay? I take note of the approximate areas, want to basically see how the market reacts at this level in the future. So it's just, me uh, reading what's going on the tape, and what I saw here, is it really reflecting on price, right? So again, look at that. I put a buy order there, but the market is very strong, aggressive buying. So I move my order right away at this 95. And if I can just scroll back a bit here, okay, there's a very important nuance here on velocity. Uh, Without going into much detail, I want to show you guys, look at how the market approaches my level, my entry. Uh, there's a little nuance here where that's already a clue. Either I scratch this, get out, or my entry was wrong. Okay, so without going into too much detail, look at how the market moves to my price. Not the best kind of velocity you want when you're long. So it does go it does go below a certain threshold that I kind of wanted to see there. And then the blocks came in around the 92s. At the 88s, we've got the previous battle. So as long as this market is not really pushing much lower below 88, I'm happily long. So I managed to not add too many contracts to this trade because I could have been very aggressive. Um, that 88 was the main decision point where I did not want to see the market really go below that, or else I would have either started hedging with the ES, because that would have been a decent move lower. And look at how I managed this trade. Look at the blocks come in. That's really good. I want to see that. These guys are trapped, okay, because they basically sold, but they're not going to, the market's not going to really go really bid, or sorry, go off or really below 88. So these guys are selling into a bad trade location, and then boom, it moves quickly with the blocks coming in. Nice move higher. I like the fact that we're sweeping. That's basically confirming that there were some stops around these levels, and when you hit some stops, it's most likely going to go higher. And look at the trade management here. So I remove that order because I kind of, the velocity, the way it's going up and everything, it's beautiful. Put my stops, and I've got 3 long, the one last stop there, one move that could help, which it's got a hard time. This is indicative of not really strong buying coming in here. So I quickly remove and scratch the last contract on that trade. So the idea was great, the entry was bad. So when your entry is bad, that forces you to chase or either have to scratch early because your entry was wrong. So it's all about entry. If you can get the entries better, you could work on your entries. It's gonna help in managing your trades. And so I think I gave you guys some good clues in how I want to see what kind of velocity, how we go down, how we go up, uh, reading what's going on with the tape, market correlations. Hope all this helps. And please do make sure to subscribe and also hit the like button, because all this will motivate me to make new videos and give more details in regards to how I trade and how I scalp. And I really do appreciate all the feedback, and will continue doing screen recording and all that, and the sessions, like the morning session, the afternoon session. Try to put my timestamps on the trades that I do take, and from time to time I will have more of these trade videos to show you guys how basically I manage my trades and how I trade day in, day out. So I will have another video coming up for several other sessions, day trading sessions that I had, and hopefully all this does help. And please do send me a message on Twitter or by email. You have my contact information, and I appreciate all the feedback, and will see you in the next video, and all the best with your trading. And do please continue supporting me, and send me messages if you guys need anything. And don't hesitate to watch the several other videos that I will have below this YouTube comments section there. And hopefully we'll keep in touch. All the best.